Hey everybody, welcome to Crypt Finder. So I'm going to continue my very eerie exploration of made-for-TV movies, and I got a double header for you tonight, and it's all Satanic Panic 1970s style. So first up, from January 9th, 1973, the movie is The Devil's Daughter. This was directed by Jano Schwartz, who also directed Jaws 2. It was written by Colin Higgins, who, by all accounts, kind of just considered this just another writing gig, but his writing pedigree was pretty impressive. He penned the scripts for Silver Streak, Foul Play, 9 to 5, Harold and Maude, and plenty of others. So this film is really noticeable for its eerie atmosphere and also sort of the supernatural horror that's rooted within the satanic cult. That was a very popular theme in 1970s cinema. So taking like a cue or two probably from Rosemary's, what is it, Otto? No, I can't play with you right now. Here, look, Squeaky Bat, go take that. All right, go play with that for a little while out in the swamp, and I'll join you in just a little bit. Okay, so taking a cue or two really from Otto. Hey, what happened to the rest of that Amazon delivery driver? Didn't we have some pieces left around? Yes, here, look, here's his hand, the good boy. Why don't you go play with that for a while? Sorry about that, everyone. Just a note here. I mean, we love our fur babies, but if you're going to domesticate werewolves, one, make sure they're housebroken, and I guess number two, they need a lot of exercise. Oh, just rip that finger right off. Okay, anyway, sorry. Where were we? Oh, yes. So taking a cue or two from Rosemary's Baby, the movie starts out with the mysterious death of a woman named Alice. Returning home from church, Alice, who's played by Diane Ladd, she's confronted by two men who have come here to settle some old debts. A dark figure enters the room on crutches, and even here the movie begins to subvert some expectations because she does try to shoot him, and yet the bullet ends up killing her instead. Her daughter, Diane Shaw, who's played here by Belinda Montgomery, has been estranged from her mother, but she does attend the funeral. And at the service, she encounters a woman named Lilith, who is played with a sort of maniacal glee by Shelley Winters, and Lilith claims to have been her mother's oldest companion. Lilith takes a real interest in Diane, even insisting that she move in with her in this huge secluded mansion. Diane is clearly uncomfortable with this kind of arrangement, and yet she feels a certain sense of obligation out of respect for her deceased mother. The house is filled with very strange artifacts. The people around her seem to be hiding something. And Diane starts to learn a lot more about her mother's past. She discovers, her mom was involved in a satanic cult. And Lilith and the other members of the cult reveal Diane was fathered by Satan and betrothed at birth, that on her 21st birthday, which is rapidly approaching, she is actually to be bound in a very unholy union and to become the bride of a demon. The film builds a lot of tension as Diane becomes increasingly paranoid, seeking help and security in a new love interest of hers. She's haunted by disturbing visions and nightmarish occurrences, though, and she tries to escape but finds herself sort of trapped by these cult members who are intent on fulfilling their dark prophecy. The Devil's Daughter is rich in 1970s horror aesthetics, with its exploration of satanic themes, paranoia, and the helplessness of individuals against dark supernatural forces. The casting here is also top-notch. Shelley Winters delivers a particularly menacing and yet sort of bonkers performance as Lilith, but it actually just adds to the sort of unnerving feel of the film. She's basically chewing scenery left and right here. You also have Robert Foxworth, Abe Vigoda. You have Jonathan Frid, who is Barnabas Collins in Dark Shadows, although in a somewhat odd casting choice. He plays a mute chauffeur. I'm not quite sure why you would hire a classically trained Shakespearean actor to ultimately play a mute chauffeur, but anyway, you just have to sort of roll with it. You also have Joseph Cotten here as well. So as far as the acting on display, you're in fine form. Though it's not as widely remembered as other horror films of the era, The Devil's Daughter is a solid example of 1970s made-for-TV horror. It captures the era's fascination with the occult and the supernatural. The story is very predictable. Yeah, you're going to see the ending coming a mile away, but it's still a really good time. Next up in this cloven hoof double feature is Satan's School for Girls, also from 1973. I think maybe 1973 was just the year of the devil on TV, actually in the cinema too, but a little bit more on that later on. So Satan's School for Girls, it actually aired September 19th, 1973 on the ABC network and eventually became a bit of a cult classic. This was directed by David Lowell Rich, produced by Aaron Spelling. The film features a really intriguing blend of horror and mystery and supernatural elements. Again, though, all of that is super typical of the 1970s fascination with satanic themes. This movie begins with a young woman named Martha Sayers, who's played by Terry Lumley. She's driving frantically at night. She arrives at her sister's home, pursued by some sort of unseen force. Martha's flight ends tragically when she commits suicide by hanging herself, though the circumstances are super mysterious. The focus then begins to shift to Martha's sister, Elizabeth, who's played by Pamela Franklin. And she's really shocked by the news of her sister's death. She's skeptical of the official suicide ruling, and Elizabeth decides, yep, she's going to investigate and traces Martha's last known whereabouts to an exclusive and prestigious women's college called Salem Academy. It's an elite institution with a long and storied history. Elizabeth enrolls in the academy under the pseudonym of Beth, and she's just pretending to be another student. But almost from the outset, she begins to notice this school has a very odd atmosphere. There's kind of an eerie, sort of secretive quality to it. And the headmistress, who's played by Jonathan Frid, is particularly unsettling. Elizabeth soon befriends a group of girls, including Roberta, who's played by Kate Jackson, Jody, who's played by Cheryl Ladd, and then also Debbie, who's played by Jamie Smith Jackson, who seem nice, but maybe somewhat aloof. Of course, Kate Jackson and Cheryl Ladd, no matter how wicked they are in this film, they would go on to be angels a little bit later on in this decade. As Elizabeth delves deeper into her investigation, she uncovers disturbing secrets about the academy. Several students have died under very mysterious circumstances, and Elizabeth begins to suspect, yep, the school is connected to the occult when she discovers some hidden rooms, some strange rituals, and symbols. The tension really escalates here as Elizabeth begins having nightmarish visions, and she seems to be haunted by some sort of sinister presence. It turns out that the school's real purpose is to indoctrinate students into a satanic coven. The most promising students are groomed to become powerful witches with their ultimate goal of serving Satan. As Elizabeth tries to escape and expose the truth, she discovers that the conspiracy goes a lot deeper than she imagined. Some of the staff and the students are involved, and they will do anything to protect their dark secret. Satan's School for Girls is a quintessential example of 1970s made-for-TV horror. The film explores things like paranoia, hidden evil, the vulnerability of women in a malevolent world, the portrayal of an all-girls school as a front for a satanic cult that tapped into societal fears of the occult, which were very pervasive in the 1970s. This film is really noted for its very strong performances, particularly by Pamela Franklin, who, her character of Elizabeth is very strong and determined and resourceful. You also have, as I mentioned, Jonathan Frid as the authoritative headmistress, and you have a lot of actors that would become household names just a few years later, including Kate Jackson and Cheryl Ladd. Lloyd Bochner and Roy Thynes are also on hand. Thynes was in another made-for-TV movie I will be reviewing in a future episode called Black Noon from 1971, but I actually prefer him playing little edgier roles, and he does a nice turn here as the school's favorite sort of laid-back teacher who actually has some dark intentions. Satan's School for Girls was influential enough to actually inspire a remake in 2000. It was produced by Aaron Spelling, and it starred Shannon Daugherty, and Kate Jackson returned as the school's dean. It's an interesting update, but the original retains its unique charm and the 1970s horror sensibilities, and I think actually it just remains the one to watch. I would say I think the movie could end about 5 minutes before it actually does. The unknowing part of it and leaving it a little bit more ambiguous, I think might have been a little bit more memorable than the very sort of predictable conclusion that you ultimately get to. Both of these films would make for a really fun double feature, offering a pretty fascinating glimpse into the era's treatment of occult themes and the enduring appeal of demonic thrillers. Of course, it wouldn't be the last time. Rosemary's Baby in 1968 really helped kickstart a lot of this off. And both of these made-for-TV fright films, they actually came out just before the release of The Exorcist, which didn't hit theaters until December 26 of that year. And that one just blew the lid off. So you began to see lots of imitations of demonic possession, along with other films playing with the idea of the devil and witches and satanic rituals like Abby, Beyond the Door, The Omen, Suspiria, and Race with the Devil. And TV would also continue sort of digging that gold mine for all it was worth, with a lot of other made-for-TV films like Summer of Fear, Whatever Happened to Rosemary's Baby, The Initiation of Sarah, Midnight Offerings. The 1980s, of course, gave rise to a very different kind of satanic panic. And if you're unfamiliar what I'm referring to here, just please go online and look it up. But it ruined a lot of people's lives and reputations and their communities. There were some sort of knee-jerk reactions by very conservative Christian groups and some bad psychotherapy that ultimately resulted in false, recovered memories of satanic practices that never really happened. But that ultimately just continued into the 1980s, where there was a constant threat that the devil was coming for your children. But back in the 1970s, hey, it was just rip-roaring fun. It wasn't taken quite so seriously. Both Satan's School for Girls and The Devil's Daughter were made at a time when the line between sort of exploitation and entertainment, it was razor thin. So go in with some low expectations if you decide to watch these. I mean, just because you can see the plot twist coming a mile away, that doesn't mean that these aren't pretty fun movies. There are far worse ways to sort of spend a rainy afternoon or evening than sitting here and watching these particular films. I hope you enjoyed these sort of little retrospectives on these two really interesting takes on the devil and how that also influenced television audiences in the 1970s. So please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for everybody who has already been doing that and leaving wonderful comments. Your comments, I read every single one of them, and they're just fantastic. So thanks so much, everyone. Until next time, stay curious and stay scared.